Hello, everyone. My name is Jeanne Ann and I am the director of Doombrook. Welcome to Tuesday at 10. We're thrilled to have Rachel Murray with us today. She's awfully nice to join us. She works for Valparaiso University in their social work department, and she is a clinical assistant professor. Rachel actually can tell us a little bit more about herself. She went to Valparaiso University and now is working there. So, what a fun thing for you, Rachel. Before we begin, I'd like to tell everyone again this our theme for the month of February is relationships. Given Valentine's Day and everything, we thought that would be a good topic. And of course, Doombrook does prevention in the area of relationships, really. We do child abuse prevention and intervention. Our prevention pieces are our Healthy Families program. We see 140 families a month teaching healthy parenting skills. We also do public education where we go K through 12 and go into schools with programs empowering kids to take care of their bodies and if something inappropriate happens, to say something to someone. And then our Child Advocacy Center where we do interviews for children with suspected cases of abuse. So we're very fortunate during COVID to be carrying on and so excited to have Valparaiso University has been very good to Doombrook, uh, especially with interns that from the social work department that have worked with us with Barb coordinating all of that. So I'd like to welcome Rachel. Thank you so much again, Rachel, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. So maybe, Rachel, I think people are always fascinated why someone goes into social work, and maybe give us a little bit about your background and why you got into social work.
Yeah, sure. I did get my bachelor's in social work from Valparaiso University, and I did my field work in schools in an elementary school in Portage, and that's how I really got started and really got to see the difference that social workers can make. And I knew that I wanted to work with children, so the school setting really did make sense for me. I then, after I graduated, I filled in for a maternity leave at that same elementary school, and then took a little bit of time and did some other work with a child care voucher program. But then I was drawn back into working with kids directly in the school setting. So that is primarily my experience in school social work, and I've worked in 3 different districts within Porter County over the course of 8 years, which
Wow.
led up to then me teaching at VU. And I think a lot of BSW graduates end up going to get their master's right away, but I did take a little bit of time to start my family and also kind
Oh,
of just really start with getting to work right away.
yeah.
And then I did get my master's in social work from IUN, Indiana
Oh,
University
nice.
Northwest. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, what a great career path, Rachel. And I am right with you. Having been a school counselor, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker, I know the impact that you make with children. And we'll talk a little bit if any parents are listening and if their children are struggling with COVID, which we all are on some level or another, why it's important to reach out for help. So thank you for that background. That is so interesting. And Valparaiso is such a wonderful university. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the social work department there and your position.
Sure. So I am a clinical assistant professor, and this is my first full-time year. So this is my first year in that capacity. Last year, I served as an adjunct instructor, which basically means, I teach a class or two, and I got started by teaching the intro class, so intro to social work.
Oh,
And
nice.
really, that's a cool class because you
Mhm.
get to, of course, your majors, those who are going to social work or major in social work are going to take that course, but also it's a general education course. So you get those from other majors.
Okay.
So I really got to get to know a lot of different people and, different majors and share what social work is about with all of them. And then I also taught a communication and counseling skills class as an adjunct. And
Uh-huh.
then I was lucky enough to get hired on full time this academic year and
Uh-huh.
continue to teach the intro class and the communication skills class. But I've also now gotten to teach some upper level classes. So working with the seniors who are about ready to graduate now and excited to do so. Taught a group skills class, and now I'm teaching a class. It's called general intervention with
Uh-huh.
individuals, meaning
Uh-huh.
kind of the one-on-one that you might think of like a therapist kind of
Sure.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also teaching a research class, so
Wow,
that's new
you
this
are
year, or this
busy,
semester.
Rachel. No wonder you're so busy. My gosh.
It's a lot. 4 classes is a lot to teach,
It
but
is it is a lot. But
it's good. It's all good.
yeah. And in your experience, I'm sure is so helpful for your students and some of the areas that you've already had experience in. Um, and given the fact, relationships, not only with your students or what you see in the social work department, what are some common issues you see, especially given COVID, Rachel, that seem to be some of the primary things? Is no, if you would, as we go around in our life since March, as I said earlier, just you and I, that, there are some days where you're going along, it seems okay, and other days you just are really overwhelmed on some level or another. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you see as far as relationship problems, given just relationship problems maybe in general, but relationship problems with COVID.
Sure. So if I'm thinking specifically about students, on campus, it really is kind of eerie to look around and
Hmm.
people aren't congregating, right? Because really they can't.
Hmm.
So kind of getting used to finding other ways to connect with people, maybe doing so on smaller scales. And but yeah, they really, I feel like it's unfair that they really are kind of missing part of that college experience. Um, and but really then I feel like a lot of students are doing a good job of them making opportunities to connect with people in different ways, whether that's through a screen or like
Sure.
I said, more one-on-one or in smaller groups. So that's what I see with students. As a parent myself, and knowing, um, I think about Caroline Ban. She's another clinical assistant professor in the social work department, and she has 3 kids. I
Mm.
have 3 kids,
Wow.
and young kids.
Yeah.
So and I mentioned this to you before we started talking, that it just feels like you're juggling so
Right.
much all of the time.
Right.
Um, and depending on people's situations with childcare and how much help they have, and if they have available to them the same resources as they did before COVID or not, really have had to make some adjustments and be flexible that way.
Hmm.
I think about, I have to sometimes be lecturing, and when I do that virtually, I've got my son downstairs, and have activities for him to do, but sometimes he pops in and says hello to my students, and
Yeah.
be flexible or else it just
Yeah.
doesn't work. But it's a lot of stress to be being the
Hmm.
parent and working at the same time, and literally at
Right.
the same time.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Yeah.
that, I think, and again, I'm lucky enough to have a job where I can work from home, and it's okay to have the kids around and it be a disruption sometimes. But I
Hmm.
know there are people who are still having to show up physically at work and trying to figure out childcare when
Yeah.
places are closed. That just adds a
Right.
lot of stress.
Right. And given that stress, do you have any tips on what they should do? Excuse me. Sorry.
As far as kind of taking care of yourself, I think, and I really wanted to talk about this because I think
Yeah.
it's so very important, um, to try not to compare yourself to
Mm,
other people.
uh-huh.
It's really difficult to do in this day and age when we have at our fingertips, right, in social media, that we can
Yeah.
just scroll and see
Oh
what
boy.
other people are doing. And oh, that family went to Disney World, and that family
It's
is
in
has
Florida.
a photo shoot. Which is great for them, right? That's what makes
Yeah.
them happy. That's what makes
Right.
sense for them. But to try not to get caught up in that race of needing to be the best or feeling like you need to have these high expectations. Sometimes
Right.
the fact that you're surviving at the end of the day and everyone was fed, the house is
Right.
probably a mess, that's
Right.
okay, right?
Right.
There's no need to have this perfection that we're chasing.
Right. Right. Wow, those are huge, everything you just said there, Rachel. So I love it that you were talking about your relationship with yourself, not only your relationship maybe with your significant other or your children or student to student, but you're saying your relationship with yourself. And it is hard not to compare. One of our, we do church online now, and one of the priests said, uh, during Mass, okay, for everyone, he was joking, but he said, for everyone in Florida, we hate you. Because
Right?
yeah. So I hear what you're saying. It's very easy, and we have three children too, and they're all grown. But the social media aspect of comparing can be really rough because it appears that, people are going to Disney and people are traveling. And yeah, there are a lot, but, for whatever reason, we're not. And, to compare is really not beneficial at all. But isn't that hard to tell yourself, Rachel?
It is, yeah, because it's what we see and it's what we're exposed to, um, and and it's, of course, it's not a bad thing to want better for yourself and better for your
Yeah,
family and to
sure.
provide in new ways, but you just have to think about what's realistic for me in my situation, because I have different challenges and different strengths than the person that I'm seeing through the screen. And of course, we're going to present our best selves. We're going to show the pictures where we look the
Oh,
best
sure.
and show the memories, and
Yeah.
that's really that's cool, right? That we have. I think about my Facebook as this great place where I have this compilation of pictures,
Uh-huh.
where I can pull from. I can go see my daughter. She's 11 now, and I can go and see when she was 3 years old, and it pops up
Yeah.
in the memories. That's
Yeah.
that's great. But we're going to be putting our best selves forward when it's in that kind of media. So we just have to be aware of that.
Right.
It's not realistic for us to show up like that in every moment
Right.
of every day.
Right. Right. So the comparing is not healthy. Watch our social media. Just spending too much time on social media. I mean, I remember even politically with everything that's gone on and everything that's still going on, or even the COVID news. Be careful how much screen time, given the fact that we do an awful lot of it with work, to try to get outside, even though it's freezing, and do other things. And having fun, as someone said the other day, think about given COVID and we can't do things socially, but what can we do? That's great advice when you're talking about relationship with yourself. And I also love what you said, Rachel, about just making it through the day. You know, applaud yourself a little bit, huh? And be grateful that,
Yeah, give yourself some credit.
yeah, good. That's a great idea because there's a lot of people who have really struggled, lost jobs, lost their housing. We see a lot of that with some of our clients and in our community with people who have just drastically been affected. Lost family members to COVID. So um, to try, not be Pollyanna, but at the same time, when you've got three kids and your oldest is 11, Rachel,
Yes,
that's a lot.
right.
It's a lot. It's all wonderful, but that's a lot. Your days are full.
Yes, yes, they
Yeah.
are. So yeah, me talking about this isn't, um, you know, kind of just, oh, this is what you should do. No, it's what I have to do myself too to
Yeah.
survive. And that's just
Right.
what I found to really, just like you said, just to be easy on yourself and to really
Yeah.
applaud yourself for the things that you have accomplished, even if it might not be some, trophy or award you can put on your
Yeah.
mantelpiece. Just
Right.
that you're doing a great job, and,
Right.
and you're
And,
doing,
and you said the juggling. You're juggling so much,
yeah,
and I do think not so much for you with three little ones because you almost don't have the time to sit back, even though it's COVID. But for me, or people with children who are a little bit older, COVID's, made us put the brakes on socially. So it almost has made us stop and say, whoa, 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 what is important to us here when you're talking about juggling? Where do we want to spend our time, even when this is over?
right.
Uh, so that stress level about living up to the Joneses or going here and there. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for that. Is there anything else, Rachel, that, advice for young moms or even anyone, given your social work background, that you think you've seen helpful for you or your friends or your family or students?
I do really like to talk, and we talked a little bit about this relationship with self and really different ways that you really should stop and give yourself credit and feel good about where you are. But also the idea of self-talk and the way
Mm,
that you internally talk to yourself can really make a
huh.
difference too. So we tend to be a lot harder on ourselves than, when we're talking with a friend, right? So we see this other person and you say, oh, you maybe that didn't go the way you would have liked it to. Maybe you would
Right.
even say that you made a mistake, but that's okay. But when we do that, when we feel we've made a mistake or we've done something maybe that didn't turn out how we'd hoped, we tend to kind of, beat up on ourselves about it and really have these very high expectations of what we expect from ourselves. So if we can really talk to ourselves as we would with a close friend and
Mm,
really be kind and be
mhm.
gentle with that internal self talk, that can really make a big difference on your mood and how you're feeling, really about, yes, yourself, but just life in general and the world around you. And that
Yeah.
can really make a difference in the way that you show up with your family and your kids, if you're really just kind to yourself too. And you can
Yeah.
then be in a better place to extend that to other people.
Right. Why do you suppose that is, Rachel, that I remember when I was younger, I had a poster. It said, snap out of it. We do beat up on ourselves and think that we're going to be better if we beat up on ourselves. Why do you think we do that?
I think there are some people who have that inner critic, and that's just maybe because of how they grew up, or maybe they had parents who really
Uh
had
huh.
high expectations and that's what they were used to hearing, those kinds of messages.
Uh huh.
But I think some people might just, based on their personality and if they're more of a perfectionist,
Mm,
might talk to themselves that way, maybe more than others. But I think we've all probably been there, no matter what your personality is or your upbringing, to where we're just sometimes hard on ourselves. So it really does take bringing awareness to the way that we are talking to ourselves and the messages that are going on inside of our brains, and really trying to rework that when we notice we're being overly harsh.
yeah. And do you have kind of a process of how you might talk to someone about changing that thinking?
And it really is just about trying to have that awareness. So, first of all, just talking about self talk. Some people don't even realize, oh, I do have this internal conversation that's always going on to help me think through things. So, just bringing awareness to that, and then really thinking about what are those messages I'm sending. And there's probably a lot of different techniques that you could use, and what would work for each person might be a little different. But certainly journaling, I like to express my thoughts through
Ah,
writing. So
that's nice.
for me, that
Hmm.
really works. But I know not everybody's into writing, so
Sure.
um, yeah, there. Just bringing that awareness to it, though, I think is
Yeah.
really an important first step.
Uh-huh. Just, I guess what you're saying is just understanding that you're doing that to yourself.
Right.
We're in such the habit of doing that. We don't even get, one, that we do it, and two, in the moment, how to switch that up.
Yep. And it really does come down to practice, just like with anything else. So when you
Huh.
realize that you're being really harsh, take a step back and say, you know what? Actually, I'm doing okay. And also, I'm allowed to make a mistake every
Yeah.
once in a while.
Yeah. Wow. Rachel, that is powerful, great advice. Thank you. Really, I think, especially in this time, because I do think a lot of us, one, don't realize how at certain times it's so heavy, the whole issue. Just what you're talking, you bring me back to when our kids were little, and especially during COVID. It's a lot just juggling your children, let alone balancing work. And then is there time for you as a mom
Right?
and a wife and ah? So I love your advice as far as your relationship with yourself and identifying maybe some negative self talk and how to switch that up because it doesn't benefit anyone. There's nothing wrong, just what you said. maybe you want to plan a trip someday to Disney with your kids, but there's no benefit from judging yourself. Why can't we do that now? Whatever. We
Right.
don't have enough money. Da, 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 da. There's no benefit in doing that. So that's really great advice. Great advice, Rachel. And lastly, I might just add, unless you have anything else you'd like to add, for those listening about reaching out for help, especially students, college students, or even young parents. Why do you think it is? And there's different types of help out there. There's coaching and counseling and, all kinds at your church or a neighbor or friend to go talk to, or family or relative that you trust. But what is your thought, Rachel, about when is a good time to do that? How do you trust? Who do you go and talk to? And is there a benefit of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm thinking specifically about college students, as you mentioned that, and
Yeah,
you know, I'm on campus and we have counseling center, and I'm guessing most universities and
yeah,
colleges have that sort of resource, right?
right.
So part of your student fees go into that, and why not take advantage of it while it's there and
Sure.
it's free?
Free, right?
Yeah, and it's right there on campus. So um, certainly others who are not college students could certainly benefit from help. Um, and really, when is the right time to do it? I think we all have moments where, even just in day to day living, where it would really help to just talk to another person. And maybe that's just venting a little bit and saying, this is what
Yeah.
I'm going through, and this is tough, and I just don't want to sit with this by myself. And having a good friend or a family member who you trust to be able to talk about that kind of stuff can get you through so much.
Yeah.
Um, and then as far as if you are maybe wondering if it's time to get professional help,
Hmm.
if it really is something that you is on your mind every day, if it's getting in the way of you being able to enjoy your life,
Uh-huh.
um, and it's something that comes up enough, I think most people probably know deep down that they need to seek that help,
Yeah.
but there is sometimes still a stigma with feeling like, oh, I shouldn't have to reach out to be able to manage what I have going on. But it really is, I think it benefits us to look at our mental health just like we would our physical health. And if we had a broken bone, or we had a cut that was getting infected, certainly we would go to
Sure.
the doctor. But
Uh-huh.
if we have something that's really weighing down on us, we need to get some help with that, and there's absolutely no shame in that.
Yeah. Well, that's great because it can be, as you said, Rachel, so helpful. And when we sit on our own, even if you journal or talk to a friend, sometimes you just need an extra boost, and why not? Yeah,
Absolutely.
at least try it. You don't have to stay doing it. I mean, that's what
Sure.
I would always say to clients is just try a session. If you don't want to go back, you don't have to. But yeah,
And you don't get an award for never having gone to therapy, right?
there you go. There you go. We'll leave it at that, Rachel. That's great. You don't get an award for not trying, right? That's a great little phrase. Well, Rachel, we sure appreciate you being with us today. And is there anything else you'd like to leave us with, or our listeners?
um Maybe just so I can promote my department, and social
Yay.
work as a profession, if you're someone who really likes to empower people and help them feel like they're strong and they can do things, and help them connect them to resources, social work is a great professional career
Mhm.
path. And VU has a great social work program. So
There you
I would
go.
love for anyone to reach out to me, rachel.murray@valpo.edu, if you'd be interested in learning more about social work, or specifically social work at VU.
Wonderful, wonderful, Rachel. So, Rachel, can you say that one more time? Rachel dot Murray dot.
So it's Rachel, Rachel
Uh-huh.
Murray, Murray,
Yeah.
at valpo.edu.
Wonderful. Thank you. And if they forget all that, just go to Valparaiso University Social Work Department and
That's right.
ask.
You'll
Yeah.
find me.
Yeah. Well, you're wonderful, Rachel. I wish you continued success there. Oh my goodness. I hope you're there long and long, lots of years.
Thank you so much.
And
This was
and really thank you for all that you do, helping all the students and everyone that you teach.
oh,
You're inspiring, really.
thank you. I
Thank you
enjoy
for
it so much.
good, good. All right, Rachel, you take care. Thanks
Thank
again.
you.
Bye bye.